Hi guys, Nick Watts here, back again for We Love Betting. I'm having another dabble with the Premier League coupon this week after last week's 1 out of 3 effort. A little bit disappointing, still squeaking a profit just about after 2 weeks of the Premier League, but Newcastle obviously let me down in a big way. I'd back them at what I thought was quite a juicy price of 13 to 10 against a West Ham side that doesn't traditionally travel too well, or certainly didn't last season. And I thought there'd be goals as well, based on the fact that Newcastle have got quite a high scoring record over the last 2 or 3 seasons at St James's Park. So disappointment all round there for me. Ironically, it was probably the one that most people wouldn't have got on board with of my 3 that came in. Stoke Palace being overs. It was 5-4 you could have got for that. In fact, I think it might have even drifted further before kick-off. And I thought that was just too big a price at the end of the day. It wasn't necessarily that I looked at that game and thought, wow, look at all the goals that are going to be scored. Just felt that it was out of proportion with reality, really. And fortunately for me, it came in to save my bacon somewhat. 3 more picks, of course, this week. I'll do my best to have a better record than 1 out of 3, of course. And let's get started straight away with Man City Hull. Now, of course, it's difficult to find a way to be with Man City here when they're 2-11 as I talk on this Thursday night. 18-1 Hull. Actually, interestingly, these sort of games I normally try and look at a way to be with the big underdog on the handicaps. It's worked quite well for me in the past. Back the likes of Reading, actually Reading twice last year against United and City when they were 20-1 and bigger, and also Blackburn, of course, a couple of years ago at Old Trafford, backing them in the handicap market at +3 goals each time. I think they're around sort of 4-5 mark to back them with that kind of advantage, and just too big. So I'd keep an eye on that market on come Saturday morning. If people start getting stuck into Man City, even at these silly short prices, a few big bets from some VIPs at some of the bookies, and you might see Hull drift some more. Keep an eye on that handicap market. It's a favourite of mine. It's not the way I'm going just yet this week, because it's still a bit too short for me to dabble in that market. But of course we expect Hull to come and park the bus in this game. Whether they'll be any good at it is another matter, of course, but it's standard strategy, of course, to put 11 men behind the ball and just try and stifle City, and I would expect them to try and do that. They scored just 61 goals last season. They were the lowest scorers in the top half of the Championship, so they're not exactly renowned for their attack. And of course, Sagbo was sent off last week, so it'd be interesting to see who gets the nod as the main striker for them. So only off the mark, of course, with that penalty scored by Robbie Brady last week. Midweek, look at them, the Capital One Cup took them into extra time, albeit with a weakened side, to score the winning goal there. So they're not a free scoring side. They definitely will come to defend here, you've got to think. And that makes you think that City are unlikely to concede here, and that's kind of the way I'm going. I'm looking at City to win 2-0. I think they've probably got something to prove after last week. We knew that Pellegrini would probably make them a more attacking outfit than Mancini did, but at the same time, at home, you just expect them to sweep these sort of sides aside, really. 7 of 9 meetings with bottom 9 clubs last year, saw them win 0, and that's good enough for me when it's 5-6. I'm just hoping it's not a complete rout, of course, because that's usually when you're a bit vulnerable with win 0. Conceding a sloppy consolation when you 4-5 goals to the good. I prefer Hull actually did a decent job of the defensive side of things, and that City beat them 1 or 2-0 for this to pay off. So fingers crossed on that one. Bet number 2, I'm going to Cardiff Everton. There was a few games that I looked around at for goals, and there was one option in Newcastle, and I just didn't have the balls to go for them again. So I'm going for this game to be overs, actually. A lot of praise for Cardiff, obviously, after that win against Man City. Fantastic to see them pull that off. I'm sure all the value punters out there were really enjoying that one. with City inevitably being too short week in, week out, really. It shows it's worth taking on these big sides sometimes, and although you're going to lose the majority of bets, the idea is that you're obviously in profit in the long run. So, very nice one for value punters, definitely. Cardiff, of course, we shouldn't be too surprised, as much as they were very strong at home last season. Best record in the Championship. Probably would have been even better had they not coasted somewhat in the end. I think they definitely took their foot off the gas towards the end of last season as they came in to win the title and drew quite a lot of games towards the end of the season. So who knows, that record might have even been stronger had they had a stronger contender pushing them all away. I think they look pretty decent value in this game, I have to say. 11-8 available on the Draw No Bet, and Everton still being priced up too short, and they always were under Moyes in recent years. Doesn't seem to have been any adjustment made for the fact that Martinez has come in. I'm certainly not criticising Martinez, but there's a certain amount of proving yourself to be done, this new regime at Everton. And Cardiff at home, I think, are a decent price here, and Everton too short. When you think that Everton won just 4 away games all of last season, and they're still under somewhat degree of construction under Martinez, I certainly wouldn't have faith in them at 27-20 to win this game. I would expect some goals though. You consider Martinez certainly as a more attacking coach than Moyes. When you think his Wigan side produced more games with over 2.5 goals in than any other Premier League side last season. That was up at 71% of their games. You've got to think that at least part of that is to do with his style of play, his tactics. So I would expect to see more of that from Everton this year. And even so, under Moyes last year, 53% of their away games did meet that over 2.5 goals mark. 52% of Cardiff home games reached it last year, and they certainly looked in fine goal scoring fettle last week against Man City. No shortage there, and I think there can be goals again here. So at 21-20, an odds against shot for over 2.5 goals, I'm snapping it up. I'll be quick with this last one because I've waffled a bit too much. Luckily, I quoted most of the stats that are relevant in week 1 because I'm going for West Ham to beat Stoke at even money. It's kind of cheating to reuse the same stats so quickly, but they won 6, drew 4 against bottom half sides at home last season, West Ham, and I've got absolutely no faith in this Stoke side. West Ham made a solid start. Stoke basically gifted victory last week by Crystal Palace, making a couple of defensive blunders. Their attack to me looks as blunt as ever. Didn't score really any away goals last season, 13 in all. I think only West Ham actually scored less, but the difference was that West Ham scored goals at home. And in fact, they outscored the likes of Liverpool, Everton and Spurs in the home standings. In terms of goals scored, that is, and that's pretty impressive, I'd say. So at even money, I definitely fancy West Ham to do away with Stoke here. Quick recap then, going back from the beginning, I'm going for City to beat Hull to 0 at 5-6. Cardiff Everton, I'm going for over 2.5 goals at 21-20. And finally, wrapping us up, I've got West Ham at even money to beat Stoke. Good luck, guys.